Hi, today I'm going to talk about using Microsoft Forms for your online classroom. There are two reasons I think Forms are such an effective tool. The first one being structure for your class, and the second one is for social and emotional learning and check-ins with your students. Let's begin. I begin by going to forms.office.com. You can also access Microsoft Google Forms as well if you don't have Microsoft Office. Now I'm going to create 3 forms for every single class period. They're going to be very similar. So if I want to make a lot of copies, I can just click this 3 dots and I can make a copy for the next day. Let's go over and talk about what's in each of these forms. Let's start with the Do Now. I begin every Do Now, both in the classroom and online, with the check-in. I want to know how the kids are feeling today. You're not going to have that opportunity to shake a kid's hand or give them a hug as they enter the classroom. So it's very important that you give them an opportunity to identify how they're feeling at the beginning of each class period. The second thing I do every day in the classroom is have the students write down the objectives. This gives every student a chance to actively engage in the lesson without any background content knowledge, which can get everybody participating right at the beginning of class with no problem. Finally, I added to this form a place where students feel like they need extra help or want to let me know something for today's class. Usually I put in a content question, but because we're online and students will be constantly transitioning, I want to begin off at the beginning of the year just by getting them used to checking in with me at the beginning of every class period. Let's talk about how this looks like on your side when you gather this data. So as students are filling out forms, you'll be able to see the number of responses. This is an easy way to identify who's participating and who's actually there and who's just turned on their camera or sitting in the classroom. Questions which are multiple choice, you'll be able to see how many students chose each answer. Questions which are open response, you'll be able to quickly read through the latest responses. You can identify any student who might need extra help or is dealing with something personal and has let you know. Finally, you can look at the average number of how students are rating themselves and click up here to see any high or low flyers for students you might need to help. By creating the structure as students enter at the beginning of each class period, they know exactly what to expect and can start working the moment that they log on online. The second form I want to talk about is a check for understanding. Because we're teaching online, we don't want to teach for more than 10 minutes or talk for more than 10 minutes or 15 minutes without a check for understanding. In a classroom, you might be able to see students' nods, the looks on their faces, how they're doing the work or writing down the notes, but online, that's a lot more difficult. For a check for understanding, it's very important to be actively aware and thinking about how you might check for students' understanding. So instead of a fist for 5 or thumbs up or thumbs down, students can hop onto this form and quickly identify if they understood today's lesson. You can also give them a content level problem. I put down a math problem, but it could be anything, to check to see if students are understanding. This is an easy way to re-engage students partially through the lesson, and then identify if you're going to move to small groups or let them go offline to work independently. The final form I want to talk about is the exit ticket. Similar to the Do Now, I want the students to identify whether or not they achieved today's objective. So at the beginning, they identified the objective. Now they're writing down if they achieved it. You can put a question on today's content or the content that you learned that day to help you figure out what you need to teach tomorrow, but definitely include a question about what students thought about that class. You're going to be gathering a lot of new information teaching online every day, and some days students are going to understand and some days students aren't. But because you're not going to have that face-to-face interaction, actively engaging and identifying the information from the students will help support you in making better choices for your next lesson. Students respond well to structure, no matter how old they are, from younger students to high school students. By creating these forms as a norm for your classroom, students will get used to coming into class, starting to work immediately, identifying wherever they might need help, and giving them a space to communicate to you as a teacher one-on-one that's not the group video chat and that's not the group chat box in the corner. By creating these forms, creating these structures, students are participating throughout the class and identifying exactly what they need and how you can help them. This is an easy way to give participation credit. It's an easy way to check in with students consistently and works both for content and for SEL, social emotional learning. If you liked today's video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel for new content every day on learning how to teach students online in an engaging manner.